from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on AgDay, could we see an end to a Brazilian ethanol tariff? Plus, cold weather moves south. In agribusiness, a marketing strategy for corn in 2018.
We got stuck with a lot of corn on hand because we watched the crop ratings, and the crop ratings did not coordinate with the final yield, obviously.
Colorado considers its own country of origin labeling law for beef and protecting the world's chocolate, even in the heart of winter.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Potential movement this week on a trade stalemate that could help the U.S. ethanol industry chew through a record U.S. corn crop. Now, according to ProFarmer Washington analyst Jim Wiesmeyer, Brazil is considering dropping its 20% import duty on U.S. ethanol. The news coming from recent comments made by the Brazilian ag minister, who was essentially linking that decision to ban imports of fresh Brazilian beef. The U.S. made that move following a food safety scandal and inspection issues with imports. Now, the Brazilian minister is saying, quote, there is on the part of the U.S. a big demand to withdraw this ethanol tariff, and we also have this problem with beef. Obviously, one thing influences and contaminates the other. U.S. ethanol stakeholders say eliminating the Brazilian tariff is a major target.
Right now, U.S. ethanol is extremely competitive on the world market, cheapest source of octane in the world. And that by a long shot, and that creates some pressures, particularly in places like Brazil, which was our #1 market, but they went and slapped a tariff on us. So we have those trade policy problems that we're fighting tooth and nail with. In fact, we're going after the Brazilian issue very aggressively today.
The Brazilian minister says gasoline prices have increased in Brazil in recent months, and that has changed the dynamic for the ethanol sector in that country. There is no timeline on changes, although a Brazilian report says it could change in time for February shipments. Also in Washington, another step toward improving rural broadband, FCC Chairman AgDay proposing a $500 million fund to help small carriers deploy internet across sparsely populated areas. This comes just a few days after President Trump signed an executive order aimed at improving rural broadband. While details are still coming out about the new regulations, Pai says, quote, a key way to reach this goal is updating the FCC's high-cost universal service program to encourage cooperatives and other small rural carriers to build more online infrastructure. Now, recent studies show roughly a third of rural residents still lack access to broadband internet. From the Des Moines Register, first it was a lawsuit against drainage districts. Now, some Iowa lawmakers are targeting animal operations in a quest to clean up waterways in the state. A group called the Iowa Alliance for Responsible Agriculture wants lawmakers to support 15 bills that tighten oversight of confinement feeding operations or halt constructions of new facilities altogether until water quality improves. Des Moines Waterworks is a member of that group. You'll remember its 2015 lawsuit against drainage districts and indirectly farmers was dismissed. A blast of Arctic air pushing deep into the south is putting some citrus crops at risk and forcing poultry growers to boost their energy demands to keep housing warm. Temperatures were 17 degrees in Dallas early Wednesday and 21 in New Orleans. The National Weather Service says readings across the south were colder than in New York and Boston. The cold blast is sending natural gas prices and electricity demand higher. According to a Bloomberg report, natural gas prices surged as heaters and power plants kicked into overdrive. The amount of gas burned for the power in the region jumped 25% from Tuesday. A meteorologist at Weather World, Inc. says the cold didn't last long enough to cause significant damage to citrus groves in Florida, but it may lead to significant damage to sugarcane harvest. A warm-up is expected later this week. Cold and snow, a rare sight in some parts of the South. Mike Hoffman has more from Farm Country, today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. As our viewers know, storms don't always drop precipitation in the way the models predict. We got this photo off Twitter from Lindsay Kimbrell in northern Texas. She says, don't worry about them. They'll survive the snow of 2018. You can see just a tinge of white there, I think, in the grass at their house, adding that survival may be a challenge as she's on day 2 stuck at home with restless kids. I guess we live farther north. Here's the way things look as far as the wind speed forecast. You can see it's going to be kind of windy lower Great Lakes, parts of the Northwest. The winds will increase a little bit in some of the higher elevations, Nevada and California, and they will continue to be kind of gusty as we head through the lower Great Lakes. Heading into tomorrow then, still breezy through the lakes and the northern plains, but the windiest area will be some of those higher elevations out west. That's a look at your wind. We'll have your forecast coming up. First, here are some hometown temps.
Save time each day and receive the latest market prices directly to your cell phone with market updates. It makes it effortless to stay aware of shifting market prices. Just text Markets 8 to 31313 to get started.
Journey to the Top is brought to you exclusively by Smart Stacks. Smart Stacks. Stay true to your roots.
A Wisconsin farmer changed the focus of his farm 30 years ago to raise and grow organic products. Randy Hughes made the switch even before organic became mainstream and consumer demand started to skyrocket. Betsy Gibbon takes us to Janesville, Wisconsin to show how this journey to the top altered this farmer's view of putting food on America's tables.
As Randy Hughes takes a walk through his shop,
these are the new brackets that they put on, the big ones.
He has 2 more employees at his side, a team he thought would be tough to recruit.
They came back and maybe part of it was they thought they'd just give it a try.
They include his son Willie and daughter Julianne. The duo came back to the farm after pursuing other careers.
I think when I graduated in 2009, I took a look at what I wanted to do, and coming back home just kind of felt right.
I grew up around that, and I missed being around the family team, and that's really where my heart was.
And I really didn't think that 10 years ago. Neither one of them showed much interest.
Randy is used to change over the years. As a young farmer, he longed to make money by growing enough corn to control the Board of Trade.
Yeah, what a dreamer. Yeah, that's right. Well, that would take that would take a lot of corn to do that.
His priorities changed when he got sick of competing with every corn planter in the U.S. He took one love and traded it in for a new challenge, searching out a niche that's paid off as he focuses on quality instead of quantity.
I'm fortunate that I was able to ride on the coattails of the organic industry, which has done well. So the acres that we have in organics now are probably some of our more profitable acres. They're the riskier acres. So you get a big goose egg on them sometimes, but they certainly are a lot more fun to grow.
Randy made a leap into the organic industry and was certified in the early 1990s. Almost 30 years later, he grows 5,000 acres of non-GMO crops, both organic and conventional.
We don't grow anything we don't grow any number 2 yellow corn.
He may be most well known for a blue corn variety, which put him in the black, and still does today.
We still grow blue corn probably every other year or so because we grow enough in 1 year to last the chip business for that period for 2 years. What we're doing is we're taking the corn and we take it to a place that processes it, stores it, and then makes the chips out of it.
Like the market, the operation has changed. Growing demand makes the crops easier to market, and premiums are even sweeter.
Where before we always had to haul it away, you had to make a lot of phone calls and try hard to market it. It's not so hard to get rid of now.
Perhaps the growth Randy is most proud of is the return of his kids and what they've accomplished. His daughter Julianne.
I don't do the same things that they do. I'm not out there, driving tractors and planting and figuring out populations and stuff.
Helps with everything from making sure trucks are in compliance.
I had to pretty much permit everything in this shed.
To putting together safety protocols, organizing a book full of maps and intersections in case of an emergency.
We farm in the airport, so all of the different gates have different entrances, and so you'd have to call the EMT and tell them which gate associates with which field.
Randy's son helps him farm.
I think it's incredibly important, and when we look ahead and try to see out into the future, what our soil profile is going to look like.
Randy will tell you the greatest change, an accomplishment of all, is working with his family.
And I don't know that there's a brighter spot in my whole life than that. I'm choking up on this one. To come to work every day and to have your kids there, and I've got a grandson that shows up every day. Doesn't help much, but he shows up. It is just wonderful. I can't tell you how happy I am about that.
Reporting in Janesville, Wisconsin, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. USDA data showing double-digit growth in organic production, providing market incentives for U.S. farmers. Now, the latest figures show organic sales account for over 4% of total U.S. food sales. The Organic Trade Association says millennial parents in the 18 to 35-year-old age range are the biggest group of organic buyers in America. When we come back, we'll talk about strategies for corn marketing in an uncertain year like 2018, and later, preserving and protecting the world's chocolate. It's happening in a place you might not imagine. Kevin Dooling, KD Investors, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. Kevin, as we look at this corn market, you know, it's not our growing season. Of course, we are watching South America and what's happening there. But in a year like we've had over the last couple of years, it's always important to keep your eye on what's going on in markets and maybe make a decision. And corn strategy for this year is something I think a lot of folks are watching.
Yes, and it's what do? We're sitting on a lot of corn. We got stuck with a lot of corn on hand because we watched the crop ratings, and the crop ratings did not coordinate with the final yield, obviously, with a 10 or 15 point drop compared to last year, yet yield higher than last year. So that something is telling us that, okay, we're in a marketing spot we don't want to be in. So how do we get out of this gracefully? How do we add value to this? And when you get a market that has that grind to it, that has that bottoming type of thing that could last a year or two, it's like, okay, let's sell the carry. Let's take advantage of basis opportunities. And if you do that, do you buy corn back? I say no. I mean, corn's going to have to be pushed by soybeans, or it's going to have to be pushed by wheat, or should I say pulled. And so I would say if you're looking at a reownership opportunity, exit the corn and then look at buying some cheap wheat calls, especially if you can get out to the July cheaply. Or, you know, even beans if you're going to get in affordably. It's hard to do with beans. But both of those, to me, are more exciting markets that hold potential for your corn position than corn itself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can see a 30-40 cent rally just in the seasonal trend of corn, but are you better off with that, or are you better off with something that has actually a chance to move $1 or $2?
Yeah, interesting.
So I'm telling my corn guys, it's like, okay, let's factor out of this corn. Let's sell the carry. Let's sell the high basis if we have it. And then let's look at getting into some wheat in sometime in the distant future here.
Right.
So
find another way. Look for another way. Maybe it's not just diversify your crops, but diversify the way that you consider and think about marketing. It's good advice. Thank you. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
For a free 2-month sample of Kevin's market analysis, or if you have a question of any kind, call 541-980-4554 or email kdinvestors@gmail.com.
Ag Day, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest lasting heavy duty pickups.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman here, looking at the map, which is pretty much clear as far as big storms go, but cold weather is setting in.
Yeah, it really is, especially in the southeast compared to normal. I'll show you that coming up on the highs and low forecast map. Now, we do have a pretty powerful storm system off the west coast, and that's already starting to impact western Washington, Oregon, and northern California, and that's going to be coming slowly inland. It's not a fast mover, but it's got a lot of energy with it. We have another storm system up in western Canada, which is going to be drawing that warm front farther toward the north and east. So actually, temperatures are going to be getting milder across the northern plains, and those milder temperatures will spread to the east into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley as we head into this coming weekend. But you can see dominating high pressure from the southeast all the way to the southwest, and of course underneath this high in the southeast. These are some very cold temperatures, especially in areas that just had a snowfall across parts of the southeast. You can see out west, though, I think we're going to be looking at some very heavy snows. Parts of the northern and western Rockies. Sierra Nevada is going to get hammered pretty good out of this one. And then you can see as we head through the afternoon hours tomorrow, maybe just a touch of snow northern Great Lakes with that system coming across Canada. Now, taking a look at precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours, not a lot east of the Continental Divide. We're just starting to see it in the Pacific Northwest. Adding in the next 36 hours, you can see all the moisture Spreading toward the south and east, just a little bit of that, like I said, in the far northern portions of the Great Lakes. Most of that is going to be in the form of snow. Even in the southeast over the past 24 hours, that moisture was in the form of snow in the Carolinas. Some of those areas got hit pretty hard for that part of the country. Adding in the next 36, we add a little bit, mainly north of the Great Lakes, but the majority of it's going to be in the higher elevations out west. High temperatures this afternoon, you can see it's going to be chilly through the southeast. Not too bad. I know there's similar temperatures there, but not too bad across the northern plains with highs in the 30s, which is actually warming it up. But look at the lows tomorrow morning, the same temperature forecasted by our computer model in Jacksonville as Bismarck. So that means it's extremely cold in the southeast for this time of the year. Not so much in the northern plains. Those are actually pretty mild temperatures for this time of the year. And the highs go into the upper 30s to 40s across the northern plains. Still pretty chilly through the southeast tomorrow afternoon. There's the jet stream, and you can see we have that ridge coming in to bring in some milder temperatures. Now that big storm off the west coast does come east, and that's going to be a very wet weather maker as it moves through the middle of the country, and then the ridge builds back up again. So that will cool things down at least temporarily again after the initial warm-up. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to Pueblo, Colorado. First of all, a mixture of sunshine and clouds, mild, high of 59. Jackson, Mississippi, good deal of sunshine, rather cold, high of 39. And Watertown, New York, windy with a snow shower at times, high of 26.
Country of origin labeling returns, only this time it's by state. We'll have details next on our Drovers Report. And imagine if disease struck the world's cocoa supply. It could be goodbye chocolate. We'll show you how scientists are trying to prevent that catastrophe. In news from our partners at Drovers, the state of Colorado is considering implementing its own state-specific country of origin type labeling law. A Colorado rancher, who's also a state legislator, introduced a bill that could amend the Colorado Food and Drug Act. That policy requires all raw beef sold in the state must have clearly marked label or signage in a conspicuous spot in the store where it's sold.
The beef would be labeled as USA beef or imported beef. For beef to be labeled as from the United States, the animals must have been born, raised, and slaughtered in the U.S. For beef not meeting that standard, the imported play card will have to list each country where the animals were born, raised, and slaughtered.
The bill could come before committee before the end of the month. You may remember a federal country of origin labeling law went into effect back in 2009, but was repealed by Congress in 2015. You can read more about the proposed labeling bill at drovers.com. Up next, the world's cocoa supply is grown where heat and humidity are plentiful. So why is the world's cocoa repository in the United Kingdom? Details when we come back.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit Kubota.com today.
Nestle, the Swiss food company that makes Butterfinger and Nerds, is selling its American confectionery business to Italy's Ferrero for $2.8 billion. The acquisition will make Ferrero the third largest sweets brand in America and globally. For Nestle, the sale is part of its move in America into healthier products. With a global demand for chocolate, it's vital to protect the world's cocoa supply, and that responsibility falls on scientists not in the cocoa growing region, but in the United Kingdom. A laboratory in the English countryside is helping to safeguard the world's supplies of chocolate, and that's where trees and saplings, some carrying viruses, are sent to be placed in quarantine. There are more than 400 plants at the International Cocoa Quarantine Center in Reading. The 70% humidity and high temperatures keep the greenhouse feeling like it's the Amazon rather than the middle of the British winter. It's the climate which decided the quarantine center should be sited right here.
If cocoa varieties are moved from one country to another, then it's absolutely vital that it undergoes intermediate quarantine. The reason why we have a quarantine facility here in the UK is we don't grow cocoa here, and so there's no danger of endemic pests and diseases of cocoa entering the facility.
According to Damon, growers estimate that they lose 30 to 40% of the worldwide crop to disease. Keeping the trees healthy in the winter is difficult because of the low light, and they begin to die as temperatures fall below 19 degrees Celsius, which is about 66 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest lasting heavy-duty pickups.